Hey Canelo, if the WBC asks you to either fight Golovkin next or give up the belt, what do you do?
I'm ready.
You ready? So we're gonna see Golovkin in May or what?
Ready.
There it is. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So, in what seems to be a very interesting matchup, Canelo Alvarez and Chavez Jr., they're negotiating right now for a fight next year, May 6th, which will be around Cinco de Mayo. That's a very interesting fight. Now, of course, it's not Canelo versus Golovkin, but I think this is a very intriguing fight, and I would look forward to watching a fight like this simply because of the fact that we're so used to seeing Canelo always fighting smaller guys. He's always playing the role of Goliath going up against David. But if he were to fight Julio Cesar Chavez, which they're talking about possibly fighting at a catchweight of 165, he would be playing the smaller guy role. But yet at the same time, we know deep down, Canelo Alvarez, he walks around probably at about 180, 190 pounds. So he won't be that much smaller than Chavez, but he will still be naturally smaller. Canelo Alvarez is about 5'8", he's about 5'7" and a half, and we know that Julio Cesar Chavez is almost 6 foot tall. I think he's about 5'11", 6 foot tall, and we know that Chavez, he would come into the fight, the night of the fight, probably at 190 pounds. Okay, so that would be interesting. Just the size disparity alone makes for a very intriguing fight. Now, Juan Marquez, who often speaks the truth when he's talking about other fighters, I found it interesting that he said a lot of things that you often hear me say when it comes to criticizing Canelo Alvarez. Let me go ahead and quote exactly what Juan Marquez had to say about Canelo deciding to possibly fight Julio Cesar Chavez at a catchweight of 165 in his very next fight. I'm going to go ahead and quote what Marquez has to say, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts as always. Here we go. He's accepting the fight because it's an interesting fight, a good fight that the fans want to see. But also, Canelo refused to fight Gennady Golovkin because he didn't want to fight at 160 pounds, but he'll fight Chavez Jr. at 165. It's so inconsistent to me because Canelo says no to 160 and returns to super welterweight, but right now, he's going to go up even further in weight to fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It's a good fight, competitive, and interesting fight between two Mexicans, but it leaves a lot to be desired because Gennady Golovkin was pushed aside. This fight between Canelo and Chavez, it's about money, but athletically speaking, Canelo has to fight Golovkin and vice versa. Golovkin has to fight Canelo. There is no way to turn away from it. It's an important fight, interesting for both, but more interesting for Canelo, end quote. Now, if you guys listen to what Marquez just said right there, pretty much everything that he said was 100% congruent with what you guys often hear me say. Even at the beginning of this video, how did I start this video off? I started this video off by saying that Canelo versus Chavez is a very intriguing fight. It's a good matchup. It's not Canelo versus Golovkin, but it's a very good matchup, right? But Marquez makes a lot of good valid points when he talks about the Canelo contradictions. There's no doubt about it, it makes no sense at all. It's a huge flip-flop when you really think about the fact that Canelo said he wouldn't fight Gennady Golovkin unless Golovkin came down to 154. Now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Canelo is willing to move all the way up to 165 to fight against Julio Cesar Chavez. That clearly gives you an idea of how much respect Canelo Alvarez has for Gennady Golovkin. You're willing to fight a bigger guy when it comes to Julio Cesar Chavez rather than fighting the naturally smaller guy, Golovkin, at 160. So we know what time it is, and we now know for sure. I mean, we already knew, but this is just further evidence of why Canelo Alvarez has not got in the ring with Gennady Golovkin yet. Now, here we go with the rhetorical questions. Why is it when someone like Juan Marquez, when he says the exact same things that you guys hear me say about Canelo Alvarez, I mean, the things that I've been saying about Canelo for years when it comes to criticizing him. You see, when Marquez says this, it's normal. And he doesn't really deal with too much of a backlash because they know deep down it makes sense and it's true. But when someone on the coincidental list like myself says the exact same thing that Marquez says, oh, it's a different type of reception. It's a completely different type of reception, right? Now all of a sudden it's hating, you being biased, etc., you black people, this and that, and all this kind of stuff, right? But they don't say this, of course, when Marquez says the same thing. See, this is the difference from me and all of these ignorant decafs that exist in the boxing world, from the boxing fans to the boxing media. 90% of the things that you guys hear me say is often corroborated with professional boxers and trainers, right? You don't hardly ever hear me say anything that puts me in the minority when it comes to the professional boxing community. I'm not talking about decafs online because they don't count. I mean, once again, it's so ironic to me that when you hear professional boxers and trainers, when they talk about Gennady Golovkin, when they talk about Canelo Alvarez, they often say almost word for word what I say about these fighters. From Freddie Roach to Floyd Mayweather to Teddy Atlas, Bob Arum, Terrence Crawford, even Russian fighters, former Soviet Union fighters like Ruslan Provodnikov. So many professional boxers have said the same things that I say. So how can it be hating on them when all of us are saying the same thing? But then notice this. The same fans that will say, oh, you're just hating on Canelo, you're just hating on Gennady Golovkin. Notice, when people are calling Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward, Guillermo Rigo, when they're calling them the most racist shit, when they're being extremely offensive, when they're saying things that are extremely personal, when Dan Rafael is claiming Andre Ward is the most boring fighter ever on HBO. When they say stuff like that, these same fans, they don't accuse them of being haters, because that's something that they want to hear. Regardless if it's true or not, they just want to hear it. So to answer my own rhetorical question, what this really all comes down to is just emotionally attached fans. They don't care what's true and what's false. What these fans are really saying that try to defend Canelo Alvarez and they call a person like me or whoever a hater or whatever else they want to call me, what they're basically saying is, Dante, we know what you're saying is true, but we don't want to hear it because personally we like this guy too much and we can't deal with hearing the truth if it's not something that benefits us emotionally, right? This is what they are trying to convey. They have somewhat of a gang-banging mentality where they know that maybe doing this drive-by and killing these innocent people is wrong, but they have to stick to their alliance. They have to remain loyal regardless if it's right or wrong, and that's what I mean when I say they have a gang-banging mentality. It's not about what's right and what's wrong, it's about remaining loyal. So going back to this Juan Manuel Marquez comment talking about Canelo Alvarez, something else I want to say since I brought up Golovkin as well. It's funny because when you think about it, the same thing that Canelo Alvarez has been accused of, you could say the same thing about Gennady Golovkin as well. Because Golovkin, he contradicted himself the exact same way. When Golovkin had an opportunity to fight Andre Ward at 168, all of a sudden, Team Golovkin, they said, we'll fight him at 164. But then they turned around and they said they were willing to fight Carl Froch if he came out of retirement. They were willing to fight him all the way at 170 if Carl Froch came back and they could fight at a catch weight, right? So they wouldn't fight Ward at 168, but they would fight Carl Froch anywhere from 168 to 172, basically, or 170. It's the exact same contradiction that Canelo just made right now. There was a time when Team Golovkin said there was no reason to fight Andre Ward because Andre Ward was inactive. But then they turned around at the same time. They said they were willing to fight a guy who wasn't even fighting, which is once again called Froch, a guy who was in retirement. Talking about inactive, they were willing to fight a complete inactive called Froch who wasn't even fighting, but they didn't want to fight Andre Ward because they said he was too inactive. So, you know, like I said, Canelo and Golovkin, they're pretty much in the same boat right now. At the end of the day, hopefully the fight comes to fruition. And that's pretty much all I got on this one, guys. I'm on to the next one.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.